What's going on, guys? Nando back with one more video, and I appreciate you guys stopping by again and again. We're talking about the Xperia XZ2, and this is going to be a quick final review on the Xperia XZ2 because I'm returning the device and because I have one too many dead pixels on my phone. So I'm going to preface by saying this, that I did not use this phone as long as I tend to use my devices before I give a final review. However, with a few dead pixels, I definitely don't want to run the risk of waiting too long and then when I want to return it, for some weird reason, not be able to. So I will be returning this device. Dead pixels are not an issue that I've heard of, so it's got to probably be specific to my device. I just had bad luck, have some dead pixels, and it's annoying me. It looks like I have permanent specks of pepper on my screen. So Sony has always been a smartphone that I have always enjoyed. I've had a smartphone from Sony since the beginning days on T-Mobile. This phone sells very well overseas. And in the United States, this phone does not sell very well. And that could be because of lack of advertisement, and that could be because of the price. But and there's reasons for that. As good and as classic and as classy as Sony makes their phones, they continue to just feel outdated. Things such as slow, laggy camera application when I'm trying to take a picture and I'm trying to focus and then snap the picture. If the subject moves any at all between those 1 to 2 seconds and the picture comes out blurry. Why? Because it just takes too long for the picture to snap. It doesn't happen on the Google, it doesn't happen on Samsung, it doesn't happen on the iPhone, but it happens on Sony. And what's even more frustrating is that a lot of top-end smartphone manufacturers utilize Sony lenses, utilize Sony hardware with their cameras. So Sony just straight up struggles when it comes to the software aspect of their camera application. That has to be probably single-handedly the reason why I'm returning the Xperia XZ2. When I want to take a picture, I want the picture to look good. And I know that I'm not going to get DSLR quality with a phone, but I also don't want to get old school 5-6-year-old quality with my smartphone as well. The front-facing camera on this phone is laughable, in my opinion. It's a 5-megapixel front-facing camera. It's so bad compared to the Google Pixel 2 XL and the iPhone X and even Samsung. Samsung was the one that took the softest front-facing camera pictures, but Sony's has beaten the Galaxy S9 Plus by a long shot in terms of bad front-facing camera quality. Google Pixel 2 and the iPhone X are kind of neck and neck in terms of front-facing quality pictures and in terms of pictures in general, with me giving the edge to the Google Pixel 2 XL. So for me, where I'm at right now in my life, given that most smartphones do a lot of the same things, especially in the Android market, cameras start to become the things that differentiate one phone from the other. Now, this phone does take HDR quality video footage. However, that video footage doesn't have touch to focus. That video footage doesn't have very good stabilization in HDR mode, and that video footage doesn't even let you take, point and drag for focus like it does on the iPhone, like it does on the Galaxy S9 Plus. So all in all, it's just not been a very pleasant experience with the Sony Xperia XZ2. The one thing I do like about this phone in terms of camera, it's its slow motion. It has really good quality and super slow motion, and actually is much better than Samsung version. Samsung's is at 720p, Sony's at 1080p on the super slow motion feature. That's kind of cool. It has its own little quirky things, its own little gimmicks, if you will, 3D of your face, whatever. Samsung has animojis, whatever. iPhones have their emojis, whatever. I don't care about that on any platform. Everyone tries to do something that differentiates, again, their phone from the other. Sony's 3D thing's cool, but I never use it. What I don't like as well about this phone is how they've implemented Oreo on this phone. With 4 gigs of RAM, Oreo on the Xperia XZ2 just doesn't seem to move along as fast as even Samsung S9 Plus with TouchWiz. I hate that we still have the little dedicated app drawer button. I'm so used to just being able to swipe up to get to my apps. I know that I can install a third-party launcher, but I don't want to do that. I mean, if you're going to be pushing the latest and greatest operating system on your phone, at least try to keep the most basic functionalities of that operating system. So if Oreo has been swipe up for the app drawer, like implement that, and then if people don't like that, maybe it provide the Sony launcher. I don't know. I don't like that when I swipe over to Google Now, it tends to lag a little bit. It tends to not curate fast enough. One thing that I do love about this phone is that it has incredible battery life. It has better battery life than the Galaxy S9 Plus. It has better battery life than the Google Pixel 2 XL. Its standby is incredible. It probably has to do a lot with the screen because this phone doesn't even have the biggest battery out of those two, out of the Google Pixel 2 XL, which is a bigger phone, and the Galaxy S9 Plus, which is the biggest phone out of the three. This phone has a 3180, I think, milliamp hour battery pack, but it lasts forever. Right now, as of this video, I've got 30% battery life left with, if you give me 1 second, with 5 hours and 52 minutes of screen on time, and the phone's been off the charger for 22 hours, 12 minutes. So that's incredible battery life. So kudos to Sony for always doing well when it comes to battery life. In terms of hardware, the phone looks good in my opinion. I really think Sony had something going with their flat slab of glass, and I think that a lot of users actually enjoy that flat slab of glass because it separated Sony from the other manufacturers. So what Sony decided to do, the front looks like it's that flat slab of glass, but the back actually has some curvature. Now this curvature allows for a better ergonomic feel in hand. It allows the phone to just feel better in the hand, but in my opinion, the curved back with the curved sides just makes this phone slip a little too much in my opinion, because before when it was flat on the back, I felt like I could at least grab onto the edges of the phone and it just seemed to just flow better and it looked cool and unique. I'm going to speak for myself, but I've read a lot of people's opinions on other videos and other reviewers. If Sony had reduced the front bezel on their phone but kept that same design, I think that Sony's phone would have been so hot. They did reduce the bezel a little bit, but there's still a lot of bezel there. And if Sony had reduced it even more, kept the flat back, I think Sony would have had a winner there. I hate where they placed the fingerprint sensor. Before, Sony had the fingerprint sensor on the right-hand side of the phone, which was good for right-handed users, not left-handed users. However, where it is now, your finger, and let me put it this way. I've given this phone to my girlfriend, I've given this phone to a coworker, and I've given this phone to a friend of my girlfriend's. And every single time that they pick up this phone and they want to place their finger where the fingerprint sensor is, they end up putting their fingerprint or their finger where the camera lens is. And that just goes to show that more often than not, people are not going to appreciate how low Sony has placed the fingerprint sensor. You have to consistently, see, I almost slipped, consistently readjust your hand, just get your finger on the sensor on the back. And with that, it just doesn't feel good. You're spending more time hunting for the sensor than you are unlocking your phone. It doesn't have front-facing, camera trickery. It doesn't allow you to unlock your face like the iPhone does, or the OnePlus, or the Huawei's, or the Samsungs. So you're either going to put a pin, or put a password, or use your finger. And the fingerprint sensor isn't even as fast as the likes of Samsung, Huawei, OnePlus, or Google Pixel 2 XL. So that's frustrating. So where does that leave us? So for $799 US, and I'm going to talk about the who's this phone for from a perspective of, do you live in the United States? Do you have access to the other phones? How likely are you to spend $799 on the XZ2 instead of $1,000 on the iPhone X, or $850 on the Google Pixel 2, or another $850 on the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus? I find it hard to believe that someone out there, maybe someone like myself who's always loved Sony, is going to go do it, but that the average consumer is going to pick the Xperia XZ2 over the ones I just mentioned on just price alone. On price alone, this is the cheapest out of all of those. And I'm not talking about special discounts or rebates. I'm talking about every phone that I mentioned, what their price was when it came out brand new. And a lot of them are still honoring that price. It hasn't really dropped in price in a lot of places. So for $799, you're buying this phone on Amazon and you're buying this phone on Best Buy Unlocked. And for $800, and then you add tax on, you can get a Galaxy S9, which is going to be a little cheaper, or S9 Plus is going to be a little more expensive, but you're going to get a much better phone overall, period, aesthetically, software-wise, and in terms of camera. Same thing goes with the iPhone X. You're going to have that. I'm not even going to mention the notch, but you're spending a lot more money, but you're going to have a much better phone experience and a much better camera and software experience overall, period. And then, of course, with the Google Pixel 2 XL, that's as good as it gets in terms of Android and the best camera in the game, period, for a little bit more than this. So it comes down to, are you willing to sacrifice everything that I mentioned in terms of camera, in terms of usability, in terms of just user experience for a phone that's a little bit cheaper and lacks in those categories? I'm not. I'm returning it, and I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section below. So hit that like button, guys. Please hit that subscribe button as well. And like always, stay geeky, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. It was Nando. Peace, salute, and adios.